I complimented a pair of very fine breasts and my alien commander shattered the core control console. No, I'm not kidding. That's how it all started. Welcome to ASTRO HFY, where humans don't just survive, we thrive. Subscribe now if you're into sci-fi, love stories with lasers, or just want to hear how getting roasted by an angry alien might be the start of something complicated. Let's dive in. Triska 7 isn't hell, but it's close enough that the distinction feels petty. It's a rocky mining outpost floating around a dying red star. Heat waves bend the light outside the windows, and the smell of ionized dust and hydraulic fluid has permanently tattooed itself into my sinuses. I've been here 16 months. I've seen two sunrises. One was beautiful. The other was just a systems glitch in the dome lighting. I'm Eli Rourke, shift engineer, system tech, glorified babysitter for machines that break more often than they should. And today, I almost died because I said something stupid. I was recalibrating the mineral flow regulator again when Lieutenant Scylla walked past. She's one of the new arrivals, all sharp cheekbones and cool blue skin. Her uniform was about half a size too tight, either by accident or design. Probably design. She leaned over the diagnostics console across from mine, and I, like any red-blooded human male not made entirely of concrete, noticed. So, I said it. Casual, offhand. Damn, Lieutenant, the gravity's working extra hard today. I might have gestured, I might have smiled. Hell, I might have winked. That's when Vela moved. Not a word. No warning. Just one smooth, terrifying stride across the control deck. Her gauntleted fist came down on the main console like a meteor with feelings. The screen shattered. Sparks exploded. A warning siren chirped once then died. Probably from shock. Everyone froze. Even Scylla. Even me. Vela stood over the wreckage. Expression unreadable. Her armor gleamed under the emergency lights. Her other hand was clenched so tight her joints clicked. "System malfunction," she said, as calm as a priest in a morgue. "I will file a report," and she walked out. For a full 10 seconds, nobody moved. The console smoked gently, hissing like an offended cat. I stared at the broken panel, then at the doorway she'd disappeared through. "What the hell just happened?" I muttered. No answer. Of course not. Nobody answers the guy who just made the alien Ice Queen lose her mind. Later, in the break room, Tayoz dropped into the chair across from me with his usual cup of tea and grinned too wide for his own face. Tayoz's species doesn't do eyebrows, but somehow he still manages to look smug 100% of the time. "You really don't know, do you?" he asked. "Know what? That she likes you." "Who?" "Commander Vela, dumbass." I stared at him. Tayoz chuckled. "Come on, Eli. You've been here over a year. Has she ever adjusted anyone else's oxygen ratio manually? Has she ever rerouted a private comm feed to warn someone about faulty shielding? Who did she deck that time the Dravari merchant brushed your shoulder too long?" "He was drunk," I protested. "He had 6 arms. One of them was on your ass." And Vela nearly dislocated his thorax. I didn't know what to say to that. Tayoz leaned in, voice low. "She's Sorelian. Their courtship is built on action, not words. Protection, provision, control of shared environments. She's been practically shouting her feelings, Sorelian style, for months." I blinked. "And today," Taoz continued, "you told her, in front of everyone, that you'd rather bounce off another alien's breasts." I said gravity. I muttered, "Yeah," and she heard betrayal. After Tayoz left, I just sat there, staring at my untouched ration bar like it had personally insulted me. Could he be right? Was that jealousy Sorelians don't do emotion the way humans do? They bottle it up, pack it tight, then compress it under 100 layers of discipline and protocol. When it leaks out, it doesn't leak. It explodes. But still, her punching a panel over me, checking out a fellow officer's upper aerodynamic design that felt intense. A few hours later, I was summoned to the operations office, which is code for someone's about to yell at you in 3 languages and fine you in 2 currencies. Inside, Supervisor Harlan looked like he hadn't smiled since the last solar eclipse. Commander Vela stood to the side, expression neutral, posture rigid, gauntlets removed. Her hands, a deep silver blue under the light, were folded behind her back, perfectly composed, like she hadn't obliterated a console with one punch 12 hours ago. Harlan glared at me. Do you know how much a quantum tier core console costs? About as much as my annual salary. Sir, I offered. He did not laugh. Vela spoke before I could dig a deeper grave. System malfunction. Overload during recalibration. Her voice was clipped. Military. The perfect lie. I swallowed, then spoke. That's not true. I said something inappropriate. To another officer, the commander reacted. The damage is on me. Her head snapped toward me so fast I flinched. Eli Rourke, she corrected herself. You were not responsible. I know, I said. I was an idiot. The joke was out of line. If someone's paying for it, it should be me. Harlan blinked, caught off guard. He grunted. Fine. Credits docked. Report to auxiliary maintenance for reassignment. You'll be running diagnostics on ventilation shafts for the next 3 cycles. Ouch. Shaft duty, literally, dismissed. I caught up to Vela in the corridor outside. She walked fast, like she was chasing down a war crime. I had to jog to catch up. Hey, can we talk? She stopped, slowly turned, her eyes deep violet, almost glowing where unreadable. You accepted punishment for my actions, she said. Why, I shrugged. Seemed like the right thing to do. You saved my hide enough times. She stared at me for a long second. That is illogical. Most things I do are, I said with a crooked smile. A pause. Then my quarters. 21, sire. She walked off. No context. No explanation. Just a time, a place, and a heartbeat that suddenly tripled in speed. When I showed up, unsure if I needed flowers or full body armor, her quarters were Spartan, efficient, warm, though. The lighting had a soft violet hue. There was a single chair, a desk with mineral samples, and a large window showing the jagged horizon of Triska 7 under a dying sun. Vela stood by the window, still in uniform, her hands clasped behind her back. Sit, she said, nodding to the only chair. She remained standing. I sat. You embarrassed me. Not what I expected. I opened my mouth, then shut it. You made me feel like a fool, she continued, voice calm. For acting on instincts I believe were mutual. I didn't know, I said quickly. I didn't understand what your actions meant. I thought you were just, I don't know, efficient. I am efficient, she said, but I was also courting you. My brain froze. She took a slow step closer. I adjusted your oxygen mix to account for your sleep apnea. I prevented you from being poisoned by defective rations. I intercepted a traitor who attempted physical coercion. Okay, when you put it like that, yeah, that does sound a little like dating. Humans flirt with compliments, she said flatly. Cerealians offer safety, protection, shelter. Another step. When you expressed admiration for another, it indicated you no longer required mine. I didn't mean that. I said, I was being stupid, human stupid. You are forgiven, she said. Pause. But you will not refer to Lieutenant Silla's anatomy again. Understood, I said, hands up, 100% retracting the gravity joke. She walked to me, slowly, deliberately. Then, just as I thought she might punch me this time, she leaned down and kissed me. Not soft, not unsure. It was deliberate, fierce, controlled fire under cold armor. When she pulled back, her voice dropped to a near whisper. That is how Cerealians confirm intent. I cleared my throat. fighting to keep my voice steady. Got it. Intent. Confirmed. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in my bunk thinking about courtship through combat, about alien misunderstandings, about strength disguised as silence, about a shattered control panel that just might have cracked open something bigger than a processor core. And I wondered what the hell comes next. I always thought my life would be defined by the things I built. Circuits calibrated, systems stabilized, problems solved by logic and elbow grease. Turns out it might actually be defined by the alien commander who kissed me, then acted like nothing happened right before our base nearly exploded. Morning on Triska 7 is artificial. The dome lights flick on at 600, mimicking daylight. I'm already awake when it happens. Barely slept. My brain's been looping last night's events like a corrupted holovid. Vela. Kiss. Confirmed intent. I still feel the pressure of her hand on my chest. Her lips against mine, controlled but intense. Like everything she couldn't say boiled down into one blistering moment of contact. And then, silence. She dismissed me after that, like a meeting had concluded. Emotional exchange complete. You may return to your quarters. What the hell do you do after that? Send flowers, bake cookies, ask for a second kiss. My instincts tell me to find Taos. I need another human or close enough to help me sort out what the hell just happened. But first I have a new shift assignment: ventilation diagnostics. Thanks to last night's heroic self-sacrifice, I've been sentenced to crawl through ducts for 3 days. By midday, I'm 600 meters under the surface, navigating crawl spaces designed for maintenance drones, not fully grown engineers with mild claustrophobia. My handheld scanner is glitching again, probably due to the heat flux in subsector gamma. Diagnostics run again. Please, and don't lie to me this time. The scanner beeps. Red warning. Coolant system variance, 17.3%. I frown. That's high. Not call a meeting high, but definitely put it in a report high. I crawl toward the source sector 12, where the fasium extraction is densest. The deeper I go, the hotter it gets. Fasium emits background radiation when destabilized, and I can feel it through my suit. Nothing dangerous, yet, but enough to raise the hair on the back of my neck. That's when I see it. A burn mark near the main coolant pipe melted through insulation. Irregular, not natural wear. Sabotage. Suddenly, that kiss feels like it happened in another life. I backtrack, calm static buzzing in my ear. I finally managed to reach the control room. This is Rourke. I need Commander Vela, immediate priority. The line crackles. Then go ahead. Her voice sharp and direct. Possible sabotage in Sector 12. Fasium extraction line. Coolant divergence confirmed. Burn marks suggest tampering. A pause. I'm en route. She doesn't ask for proof. She doesn't question. She just moves. We meet near the Sector 12 main entrance. Vela arrives in full armor, eyes scanning the hall before they rest on me. Show me. I guide her down the path, re-explaining what I saw, trying to sound more like an engineer and less like a guy recovering from alien-induced whiplash. We reach the burn mark. She kneels, inspecting it. You're correct, she says. This wasn't an accident. Her eyes meet mine. You found this because you were demoted, reassigned? I correct. She almost smiles. Then the reassignment was fortunate. My stomach flips. It's the first time she's acknowledged the weird gray area we're in, with even a hint of warmth. Then her voice shifts back to command mode. We must escalate this. If Fasium is compromised, we both know what that means. Containment breach, catastrophic chain reactions, a crater where Triska 7 used to be. By the time we reach Central Command, the alarms are already starting. System alert: Fasium reactivity spike. Sector 12. I turn to Vela, who's already moving. We can't remote override. The panel's been looped feedback injection. Manual shutdown, she asks. Only way. Then we run. And we do. Sector 12 is chaos. Alarms scream. Red hazard lights flash like the universe is trying to have a seizure. Fasium containment chambers glow a sickly blue, the color of bad news and radiation burns. I race behind Vela as we dodge between panicked personnel. Most are evacuating. We're going the opposite way. Of course we are. Containment at 61% and dropping, I shout, reading from my HUD. Control override not responding, she confirms grimly. The sabotage was deeper than we thought. The extraction arm is still running, pulling in fresh fasium even as the core destabilizes. We have to shut it down manually, I say, then stay behind me. She moves like a storm precision and power. Every step calculated, every motion braced against failure. We reach the platform above the extraction pit. It's hotter than any room I've ever been in, and the air smells like burning copper and bad decisions. Vela doesn't hesitate. She dives straight toward the control ladder. Wait, I call. Radiation, your suit's not rated for this. She pauses, looks back. Cerulean physiology. I can endure longer. That's not the point, I shout, but she's already gone. She climbs down into the glowing pit, where the fasium extractor groans like a dying beast. Her gauntlets lock onto the machinery. Sparks fly as she physically rips open a maintenance hatch and starts rerouting power manually. Above her, I reprogram auxiliary coolant channels with trembling hands. I'm sweating hard enough to short my gloves. The override panel beeps at me. Coolant stabilization, 43%, 47%, 52%. It's working, I yell. Extraction arm still active, she replies through gritted teeth. Stabilization incomplete. I'm trying to wait. My screen flickers. Foreign command detected. External signal. Someone is still accessing the system. We're being jammed, I mutter. I yank open the comms relay, rip out the feed circuit, and manually splice the line into local control. It's desperate, sloppy, and it works. Coolant stabilizes, 67%, 72%, 81%. I exhale just as a secondary alarm screams in my ear. Extraction arm core is overheating. Vela shouts. Emergency shutdown failed. Abort and evacuate. But there's no reply. I peer down. She's still trying to disengage the hydraulic feed. The core beneath her begins to hum a terrible, sharp resonance that vibrates in my teeth. I jump onto the ladder, descending fast. This is idiotic, I yell. Leave, she snaps. Not without you. The ladder burns. Literally. My gloves smoke as I grip each rung. When I reach her, she's pale, soaked in sweat, still gripping the control column with shaking arms. Radiation dose climbing past tolerable limits. She mutters. I cannot climb. I loop her arm over my shoulder. Then hold on. You'll collapse. Maybe. Let's see who collapses first. Climbing out is hell. Each step is a personal argument with gravity. My suit is cooking from the inside. Vela's weight drags on me like a dying star. The pit roars beneath us. We reach the top just as the containment doors slam shut behind us. An explosion ripples through the shaft. The extractor ruptures, but the coolant holds. Containment restored. We collapse in the corridor. She's shaking. I'm coughing so hard I think I'll taste bone. But we're alive. Barely. 2 hours later, we're in medbay. Nanites swarm through my bloodstream, stitching cell walls and purging toxins. I taste copper. Everything aches. Across from me, Vela lies still, her armor stripped away. Her arm is fractured, skin pale, hair loose from its braid, cascading across the pillow like silver thread. She looks soft, quiet, vulnerable. It's a side of her I've never seen, and one I never expected. A soft voice breaks the silence. You're awake. I turn. She's watching me. You too. You were irrational. She says, Yup. You endangered yourself. Correct again. Pause. You carried me. Guilty. She nods slowly. Thank you. There's a beat. Then she adds that was Phase 2 of Cerulean courtship. I blink. Rescue under mortal peril. Correct. So, how many phases are there? 13, she says. I groan. I hope none of them involve lava. She smiles. The first real one I've seen. Only the final one. They say after a near-death experience, life feels different. Colors seem brighter. Food tastes better. People matter more. In my case, people is shorthand for one very intense, very orange-skinned alien commander who's currently pretending she didn't kiss me, didn't almost die, and didn't admit we're somewhere in phase 2 of a 13-step Sorelian courtship ritual. I try to act normal, except I'm not sure what normal is anymore. Vela and I are on medical leave 5 full days to rest, recover, and presumably figure out how we went from professional co-workers to courtship partners with radioactive burns and a sabotage investigation between us. It doesn't help that the base is buzzing with rumors. People know we were in Sector 12 when it blew. They know we came back injured, and some know we came back holding hands. Commander Krell stops by our recovery quarters on day 2. Rourke, Vela. Good to see you, Vertical. He grunts. His scowl's only slightly less pronounced than usual. That's how Krell shows affection, by looking less pissed than normal. The investigation's progressing, he says, tossing me a data tab. Thought you might want to see this. I skim it. Origin point of sabotage, auxiliary control panel. The same one I'd taken the fall for earlier. My heart sinks. That panel was damaged. I say, system override disconnected it. Someone reconnected it. Krell replies, remotely. Which means someone used your cover story to install a false feedback loop. I glance at Vela. She's rigid, jaw tight. This is personal now. We run simulations. Pore over logs, retrace steps, and one pattern keeps popping up: unauthorized access near the storage wing during the hours we were in medbay. That's where the refined fasium is kept, Vela says, and where our charming kitchen worker, Syrah, requested extra protein rations. We share a look. Suddenly, her colorful face markings don't seem so decorative anymore. We trace the security logs, cross-reference staff rosters, and bingo, Sierra Navice isn't who she says she is. Her file was fabricated, entry date forged, identity tag copied from a dead freelancer on Europa 7. She's syndicate, Vela mutters. Orion class. Probably hired to scout weaknesses. She saw the chaos from the control panel damage as the perfect opportunity. Vela nods grimly. Used my emotional lapse as a diversion. Efficient, ruthless, manipulative as hell. I add, I want to be mad, but honestly, I'm more mad at myself. For talking about another woman, for triggering Vela's reaction, for giving the saboteur her distraction. I endangered everyone because I couldn't control myself, Vela says quietly. I move closer. You also saved everyone by climbing into a radioactive hell pit. 2 things can be true at once. 3, actually, I say, you look really good in that med-issue tank top. She blinks. Was that a human mating display flirtation? Yes. Mating. Not yet. Phase 3. Pending. She stares at me long enough I start sweating again, but not from radiation this time. Then she says, acceptable. On day 4, Krell returns. Security sweep at Proxima Station caught her, he announces. Sierra Navis. Tried to smuggle out 200 kilos of refined fasium, worth enough to buy a small moon. Guess she's not much of a cook, I mutter. Krell snorts. You 2 earned this. He hands us new assignments: Security Oversight Committee, promotion, access, pay bump, also surveillance of future sabotage attempts, which sounds cool, until you realize it means working directly with each other every day. Vela doesn't blink. I accept. So do I. I add. Krell nods, then pauses on his way out. Keep it professional during duty hours. Off duty, I don't want to know. Later, on the observation deck, Vela joins me as the twin moons rise above Triska 7. On Sorelia, she says quietly, the double moon rise is a time of decision. That right, It is when bonded pairs choose whether to proceed to permanence. My throat tightens. And, do we proceed? She steps closer, eyes unreadable. I find you. Compatible. Is that Cerulean for I like you? It is Cerulean for I wish to see where this leads. We stand in silence, moons bathing us in silver. Then she adds, but be advised, Phase 4 involves physical training and dietary compatibility trials. Does that mean you're making me eat those spicy protein bricks again? Yes, and I expect you to like them. I groan. This relationship is going to kill me. Highly likely. She agrees, then leans in and kisses me slow, intense, and full of promises I'm not remotely ready for, but definitely not turning down. We return to duty the next morning, side by side. There's a new kind of rhythm to our movements, subtle, synchronized. She hands me tools without needing to be asked. I finish her diagnostics before she finishes her scan. It's eerie, efficient, maybe even intimate, but neither of us mentions the kiss. Instead, we calibrate fasium containment systems like nothing happened, while the rest of the crew gives us just enough space to keep pretending, until a message pings across our shared console, high priority comm from Cerulean Fleet Command, encrypted. Commander Vela Tessari, eyes only. Her jaw tightens. Without a word, she opens it, then silently routes the feed to me. That's trust. Big trust. The message is short. Unauthorized transmission from Triska 7 flagged. Syndicate signal trace confirmed. Suspect Vela Tessari. Await return for tribunal. My blood goes cold. They think, you're in on it. It would explain the distraction, the control panel, the absence of formal reports. This is insane. She's calm. Too calm. Cerulean law values circumstantial efficiency. I was present. I acted irrationally. There is a case. I shake my head. No, we clear this. Together. Her eyes meet mine. You would vouch for me against a Cerulean tribunal? Absolutely. She looks away for a long beat. You may be required to undergo truth synthesis. I've survived fasium meltdown, jealous alien sabotage, and your cooking. I'll survive whatever this is. Her lips twitch, almost a smile. The cooking was deliberate. I knew it. We prepare a counter-report, cross-reference logs, attach security camera footage of Sierra accessing restricted areas. Vela is methodical. I'm pissed. They should be thanking you, not accusing you. Emotions are inefficient in justice. Eli. And yet here we are. The tribunal sends word they've dispatched an officer to interview both of us on site before ordering extradition. Lieutenant Navy Voss, Vela mutters when she sees the name. Internal investigations. Friend of yours. She once suggested I excessively suppress emotional instability. Translation. She thinks I'm a ticking bomb. Great. Just what we need. Lieutenant Voss arrives in a gleaming white Cerulean inspection suit, expression pinched and clinical. Her hair is tied in mathematically precise braids, and her tone is that of someone who dissects relationships in spreadsheets. Commander Tessari, Engineer Rourke. We will begin with individual interviews, followed by collective synthesis review. I go first. She straps a biosensor across my jaw, runs a thermal linguistic scan, and starts in. Do you have romantic entanglement with the accused? Yes. Did that influence your decision to take the blame for the damage panel? I did it because she didn't deserve to go down for a punch she didn't mean to throw. She raises an eyebrow. So you admit you were covering for her? Yeah, I just said that. And that is not emotional bias. That's loyalty, or decency, or maybe just being human. She pauses. Curious species. Vela's interview takes longer. When they emerge, her shoulders are straighter, jaw tighter, but she nods at me. We are approved for joint review. In the tribunal chamber, the conference room with a borrowed seal, we present everything: the sabotage logs, Sierra's real ID, even her intercepted attempt to board a smuggler's vessel. At the end, Voss leans back, hands steepled. Your data is compelling. However, the Sorelian Code requires acknowledgement of personal compromise. Vela stands. Then acknowledge this: I felt what I should not. I acted with instinct, not calculation. But it was that action which saved the base. I do not reject the law, I challenge its interpretation. Voss stares at her. Then, to my shock, nods. Petition noted. No further charges. But further contact with non-Sorelian partners will require documentation. Vela glances at me. Document this, she says. Then she pulls me into a kiss in front of the tribunal. Afterward, we sit in the observation deck, watching the moons rise again. So what now, I ask? We continue courtship. Phases 4 through 8. Does any of that involve actual dating? Phase 6 is designated for recreational bonding. You know, I've never been so intimidated by dinner and a movie in my life. We do not eat films. I laugh. She leans against my shoulder. But I would watch one. If you chose it. We sit in silence a while longer. Then she adds, quietly, thank you, Eli Rourke, for standing with me. Always, I say, squeezing her hand. We're a team now. She looks at me, those brilliant eyes warm in the moonlight. Yes, and together, we are volatile, efficient, and increasingly compatible. And if that isn't love in Sorelian, I don't know what is. 3 days. That's how long it's been since Vela boarded that Sorelian escort ship, silent, composed, her expression unreadable even to someone who'd learned to read the subtle pulses in her cheekbones and the glint in her silver eyes. They called it a standard recall for protocol review. That's like calling a black hole a minor gravitational inconvenience. Everyone on the outpost knew what it really was, a political trial in ceremonial robes. Vela was to be judged. The official charge was emotional misconduct resulting in infrastructural damage and compromised safety protocols. Unofficially, she was the perfect scapegoat. She was strong, respected, and just alien enough to be convenient. After the fasium theft fiasco, someone needed to bleed, and Vela. She'd left a literal dent in a government-issued panel with her fist and a few thousand volts of emotional turmoil. I'd been angry, furious, actually. Not at her, at the system, at Krell, at the Sorelian High Circle. At the quiet way she accepted it all. You're just going to let them take you, I'd asked her in our last few minutes before departure. No fight, no argument. That's not the Vela who punched a panel over protein loaf gossip. She didn't laugh. Instead, she'd said, a Sorelian warrior accepts consequence as willingly as she wields strength. I violated protocol. I will answer for it. But you saved the damn facility. I'd said, fists clenched, because what the hell else could I do? Her hand had brushed mine, fingers strong and steady. And they will forget that in favor of what's convenient. That is the nature of politics. I almost kissed her then, but she turned away first. Maybe she knew I wouldn't be able to let her go if I did. Today, I sat at the far end of the mess hall, poking my lunch with the same level of enthusiasm one might reserve for performing dental work on a landmine. Protein loaf again? The same kind. No Sierra in sight this time. She'd been arrested, interrogated, extradited, probably halfway across the galaxy by now. Part of me hoped she stayed gone. The other part wanted answers she couldn't give anymore. Morgan sat across from me, sipping his synth coffee like the traitor to taste buds he was. You look like a man expecting execution. Feels like one. I muttered. She'll be back, he said, which meant he was worried too. She's not like us, I said. They don't do second chances. They do binding oaths, trials by ancestral blade, and honor above sentiment. Morgan raised a brow. You've been reading Sorelian cultural briefings again. Haven't you downloaded them all after she left? Needed to understand why the hell she wouldn't fight. Morgan leaned back. Maybe she is fighting. Just not the way you want her to. That stuck with me. I couldn't sleep that night, or the next. The cot felt too cold, the outpost too quiet, my chest too heavy. On the third night, I did what any emotionally compromised, sleep-deprived human in love with an honor-bound alien warrior would do. I broke into the classified comms archive. To be fair, it wasn't technically breaking in. I had access credentials, senior engineer privileges. What I wasn't supposed to do was read the encrypted dossier flagged Cerulean internal. Class eyes only. It wasn't easy. Cerulean encryption is built to resist kinetic tampering, AI infiltration, and, presumably, romantic desperation. But desperation has a way of sharpening focus. What I found, not just a protocol review, there was a motion to permanently reassign Vela to the Outer Core Fleet, Cerulean military slang for never coming back. And the motion had originated from High Commander Irel Thorn. Sound familiar? It should. Irel Thorn's name was buried in a handful of old supply logs, dating back 3 months. He'd personally authorized transport reroutes that aligned suspiciously with fasium shipments that went missing. There were also financial records, flagged by our internal AI, showing shell transfers into untraceable planetary accounts. Syndicate money. Thorn wasn't just trying to punish Vela, he was covering his ass. She'd been in the wrong place, with the wrong integrity, at the worst possible moment. And now, she was going to disappear legally. I closed the file, leaned back, and stared at the ceiling. My hands trembled. There were 3 things I could do. 1. Report what I'd found to Krell, knowing full well he might be part of the cover-up or too scared to touch it. 2. Leak the intel to the Intergalactic Ethics Commission. Slow, bureaucratic, might work after she was already gone. 3. Or stop her transport manually. Option 3 involves stealing a long-range shuttle, intercepting a military convoy, and possibly starting a diplomatic incident, which would get me court-martialed, blacklisted, and probably shot. I sat there for a long time, and then I shut the terminal down, stood up, and didn't steal a shuttle. I didn't storm the convoy. I didn't commit treason. Instead, I recorded a single encrypted message and sent it directly to the Cerulean Circle of Judiciary Oversight. My message was simple: check Irel Thorn's accounts. You'll find enough fasium money to buy a black hole. Then I went back to my quarters and waited. Not for judgment, not for peace, but for a knock on my door, or a warship in orbit. The knock came not at my door, but through the outpost's primary comms feed. "Incoming shuttle requesting manual clearance," said the system voice. "Authorization code, Valkyrie Delta 9. My breath caught. I hadn't heard that clearance tag in weeks. Vela's ship. The hangar bay was half-lit, quiet. A few curious engineers peeked from behind storage racks. But I stood alone as the shuttle ramp hissed open with hydraulic finality. She stepped out like she had every right to be there, and maybe for the first time, she truly did. Her new uniform gleamed, darker than the one she'd left with, sleek black with silver Cerulean command markings. Her posture was sharper, her stride more commanding, and the moment she saw me, her expression shifted from diplomatic neutral to something warmer, almost shy. "Commander now?" I asked, trying not to let my voice crack. "Temporary appointment," she replied, descending the ramp, pending reassignment. To here, she stopped in front of me. "That depends. Is there still a position available?" "For a dangerous, emotionally volatile alien woman," I smiled. "Only if she's willing to punch another panel for me." She didn't laugh, but her hand brushed mine, and that was enough. Turns out, my encrypted tip reached the right ears. Irel Thorn was exposed, arrested, and thoroughly disavowed. The Cerulean Circle reversed Vela's recall, citing unfounded political manipulation. They reinstated her with commendation and granted her the choice of assignment. She chose Vega 9, me. She never said it directly, but her actions were crystal clear even in her cultural context. Later, we stood on the upper deck, watching the stars. The outpost was quiet, emergency alarms silent, fasium stocks intact. My pulse was another story. I miss this, I said quietly. The outpost, no. Us. She tilted her head, expression unreadable. There was never an us, officially. I can file paperwork. I offered cross-cultural bonding waiver, Section 8A, Subform 12. That earned a smirk. I have my own forms. I bet they require blood oaths. No, just proof of compatibility under fire. I turned to her. Then we're more than qualified. She looked up at the twin moons, their light reflecting in her silver-white hair. You chose not to follow me, she said suddenly. You let me go. I believed you'd find your way back. That was foolish. No, I said. That was faith. She turned to face me fully, and for the first time since she'd left, her hands rose, both of them, and cupped my face. I'm not leaving again. Jake Harlow. That's good, I whispered, leaning in, because I'm done with long-distance alien relationships. Her kiss was fierce and unyielding, like a promise written in fire. The next day, we resumed duty like nothing had happened except everything had. We were still partners, still surrounded by malfunctioning machinery and weird protein loaf, still arguing about resonance settings and calibration math. But now, there was a look between us in quiet moments, a subtle awareness, a future, forged not in fire, but in choice. I used to think peace was just the absence of conflict. Now I know it's what you fight hardest to keep. And sometimes, the price of peace is choosing to believe in someone when they can't believe in themselves. So yeah, that's how I almost lost her and how she chose to come back. It wasn't the firefights, or the near-death radiation exposure, or even the political backstabbing that tested us the most. It was trust, not just in each other, but in something worth building together. Human and alien, different blood, same heartbeat. Some call it impossible. I call it HFY. If you enjoyed this story of interstellar bonds, fire-forged loyalty, and a little too much fasium drama, don't forget to subscribe to ASTRO HFY for more sci-fi tales, where humanity stands its ground and sometimes finds love in the unlikeliest corners of the galaxy. Like, drop a comment with your favorite moment and let us know. Would you take the blame for your alien partner, or better yet, would you survive the kiss that follows? See you in the next story. Spacefarers, stay bold, stay human. Astro HFY, signing off. I told the alien warrior she had a great ass and saw stars a second later.